I'll give you the perfect world, okay? You are dictator for 5 years. What do you do?
If I could do something, maybe ban social media. Because
why? What worries you about social media?
Look, I think a couple of things. One is keyboard warriors who can anonymously say anything at all.
Right now, you're listening to this on social media. YouTube is, after all, a social media platform. YouTube videos are intrinsic to it. You might comment below a video, expressing your views about whether you like what I'm saying, and expressing your views about this topic. The same applies with Twitter, or Threads, or Facebook, or Instagram, or LinkedIn, or any other social platform. We use social media on a daily basis. Sometimes we use it for mundane things, such as sharing or viewing cat videos, or talking about what we had for lunch. Other times we just catch up on celebrity gossip. But we also use it for serious things, such as discussing ideas. This includes heated political debates about things such as the voice referendum. The discussions can get heated, sometimes argumentative, but discussing ideas is fundamental in a democracy. Now, sometimes people say things that are incorrect when they're discussing ideas, but that's okay. People aren't perfect. If people cannot express their beliefs, even if they're slightly incorrect, how will they learn? Suppressing people simply builds resentment. Now, social media can also help to correct incorrect beliefs, and sometimes the people who once looked wrong turn out to be right. After all, we once thought the Earth was the center of the universe. Sometimes the entrenched interests and the entrenched views, the ones that look like the established views, sometimes those happen to be the incorrect ones. Sometimes the entrenched interests are the ones spreading falsehoods. In the United States, it's why we have the First Amendment. In Australia, it's why there's the implied freedom of political expression in the Constitution. And social media is intrinsic to that expression. However, Anthony Albanese seems to disagree. In his ideal world, Anthony Albanese would ban social media. He said this explicitly in an interview he gave with Neil Mitchell of 3AW. Let's take a listen.
I'll give you the perfect world, okay? You've got no caucus to answer to. You've got no Federal Labor Party conference. You've got no elections. You've got no opinion polls. You are dictator for 5 years. What do you do? What's your first act?
Well, one is I'm not a supporter of dictatorship. So, look, it is true that in a democracy you have to account for more than your own views, which is what I guess your question is getting at. But I do try to do things as much as possible that I really think advance the long-term interests of the country. I think the big frustrating thing, if I could do something, maybe ban social media, would be handy. Because
why? What worries you about social media?
Look, I think a couple of things. One is keyboard warriors who can anonymously say anything at all, and without any fear, the sort of things that they would never say to you face to face, they can just assert as fact. And it worries me that what that's doing, combined with the pressure that is on modern journalists, is to really be obsessed by the very short-term cycle.
Now, it's not clear whether Anthony Albanese is actually joking when he says that he wants to ban social media. It didn't seem like he was joking to me. Maybe you have a different thought. You can let me know that in the comments below. However, Anthony Albanese's comments are astounding to me, even if he is supposedly joking. And they should shock all Australians. A sitting Prime Minister shouldn't be joking about banning social media. A sitting Prime Minister shouldn't be joking about banning political expression, even if he was joking. And I'm not sure that he was. It sounded to me like he was being serious. So it seems that Anthony Albanese wants to stop you from expressing your views, or at least stop you if you disagree with him. It would appear to be perfectly fine with you actually furiously agreeing with what he's saying, but how dare you actually disagree? Now, this is appalling. It is clearly entirely undemocratic. But this should not surprise us from a Prime Minister that has become quite adept at bullying, such as Anthony Albanese has. Anthony Albanese has, after all, gotten into the habit of name-calling any no-voter in the voice referendum, castigating them and suggesting that they are conspiracy theorists if they bring up legitimate questions. He did just this when confronted with the fact that the Uluru Statement is in fact more than just one page, and in fact could encompass up to 26 pages, maybe even more if we include the full background documents. And to be clear, the words in the Uluru Statement, the one A4 page, are so broad and vague that they need definition. and the documents providing that definition are a necessary part of it. Indeed, Anthony Albanese appears to spread misinformation all the time. He seemed to spread misinformation about the nature of the Uluru Statement, for example. And he seems to believe that so-called keyboard warriors on social media should not be able to question him or call him out when he is wrong. Unfortunately, however, Anthony Albanese is actually going out of his way to try to suppress free speech, much like the dictator that he was talking about in his interview with 3AW. The government has created a bill to combat so-called misinformation. They have defined misinformation extremely broadly. The bill would task social media companies with suppressing so-called misinformation. I say so-called because the misinformation definition in the bill is so broad that it encompasses a lot of things. And not only that, it actually gets worse. The social media organizations would be penalized if the regulator is not satisfied with their attempts to suppress so-called misinformation. Now, this clearly incentivizes an overbroad approach to information suppression, thereby catching broad swathes of political commentary. After all, the social media organizations are incentivized to suppress more speech, not less. Suppress more speech lest the regulator allege that they have failed to do so. And to be clear here, the bill is so broad in its definition of misinformation that it could catch a lot of speech, and the social media organizations would implement it by catching even more. Now, interestingly enough, the government is actually exempt from these regulations. Social media organizations don't need to go and police whether the government is engaging in misinformation. Social media organizations don't need to police whether media is engaging in misinformation. They only need to police whether individuals are engaging in so-called misinformation. Under the government's own legislation, it would appear that the government is free to go out and spread falsehoods, but how dare you actually question the government? It's a truly, truly fascinating bill, and I encourage you to read it in full, because it's truly disturbing. Let's see how this bill would work in practice. We can use a topical example, the Uluru Statement from the Heart. It turns out that the bill would prevent factual information from coming out and being spread and being communicated. Anthony Albanese claims that the Uluru Statement is only one page. He said that people claiming otherwise are spreading misinformation and that they're conspiracy theorists. Anthony Albanese would claim that it could cause serious harm to disagree with him here, as it would impact people's voting decisions, and it would be seriously harmful to undermine democracy with false information. This, of course, is premised on that information actually being false. Now, social media platforms would then be cowed into suppressing information contrary to Anthony Albanese's assertions. We're already seeing some of this. Reportedly, Facebook has actually suppressed some of Peter Credlin's reporting on this. But here's the rub. The Uluru Dialogue co-chair, Megan Davis, has stated that the Uluru Statement is actually more than one page. She stated this previously. She only subsequently clarified that the Uluru Statement is one page. But if she has made contradictory statements, even inadvertently, one can hardly blame people for being confused. Furthermore, in the documents adduced via a Freedom of Information request, one of those documents is titled the Uluru Statement. And in any case, the background definitional material is intrinsic to understanding what the voice intends to achieve. It implicitly is in fact part of that one A4 page, because it tells us what the voice intends and what its goals are. The government's misinformation bill would actually aim to suppress information that is factual. It would aim to suppress that information about the Uluru Statement coming out and being discussed. This is clearly disturbing. It is also likely unconstitutional, given Australia's implied freedom of political communication. It tells us exactly why this misinformation bill really needs to be rejected. And it tells us exactly what Anthony Albanese's intentions are. Now, if Anthony Albanese actually believes the social media should be stamped out, whether it's through him being a dictator or through legislative means, that is clearly disqualifying. A sitting Prime Minister should not be trying to suppress speech. A sitting Prime Minister should not be trying to suppress social media. A sitting Prime Minister should want more speech, more freedom of speech, more people going out and trying to find the truth, more people going out and trying to question the status quo. It tells us all we need to know about his fitness to hold office if he truly believes that social media should be banned or suppressed, and unfortunately the misinformation bill that he is propagating seems to do just that.